Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Minimalist podcast. I'm your host, Meg Carney, and I'm an outdoor and environmental writer and author of the book, Outdoor Minimalist, Waste Less Hiking, Camping, and Backpacking. The Outdoor Minimalist podcast has the goal to give listeners actionable ways to waste less hiking, camping, backpacking, and more during every step of their process. Your impact outdoors starts long before you hit the trail and goes beyond leave no trace ethics. You'll learn how to identify sustainable outdoor brands, how to ask hard questions regarding sustainability, and begin to shift and evolve your mindset to integrate minimalism into all of your outdoor pursuits. In episode 89 of the Outdoor Minimalist podcast, we're returning to the topic of food packaging. If you've listened to previous episodes, then you know we talk a fair bit about trail food on the show. And while ingredients come up in discussion today, the primary goal of my conversation with Eric Boxer, the Chief Sustainability Officer and Head Chef at RightOnTrek, was to learn more about how RightOnTrek chose their BioBased packaging and how other companies can learn from their pursuit towards a more sustainable backpacking lifestyle. Eric has been a lifelong outdoor enthusiast for extended excursions on the roads less traveled via bicycle, canoe, skis, and on foot. In previous career journeys, he commercialized his own line of energy bars that use sustainably farmed ingredients and consulted on energy efficiency for buildings and industrial processes. Eric is passionate about helping people experience food and the great outdoors with minimal impact to the environment. Awesome. So thank you for joining me on the show today, Eric. We have talked about backpacking food on the Outdoor Minimalist podcast with a few different guests, but I already know that your perspective is going to be a little bit unique and add a lot to the topic of discussion. But before we dive into all of that, I would just love to get to know you a little bit more and hear a little bit how outdoor recreation fits into your life and how you started working in the outdoor industry.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Meg. It's a privilege to be on your podcast and look forward to sharing perspective. Um, Outdoor recreation, wow, it's pretty much always been a part of my life. It's kind of part of what my family did growing up, and especially what I was interested in doing. Um, I grew up going to the park near our house in Western New York, and then once I discovered uh, the Western U.S., especially the Rocky Mountains, I just really fell in love with um, mountain climbing and backpacking trips and spending time in wild places outside the norms and outside the constraints of um, the human-made society.
And you're not based on the East Coast anymore. You're based in Montana, I think. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, most of the year I'm privileged to live in Northwest Montana near RightOnTrek headquarters.
And did you go to school like in studying something related to outdoor recreation, or how did you get into the industry?
So I minored in skiing, hiking, and climbing at University of Colorado, but um, my education is in engineering, specifically energy efficiency engineering for buildings and building systems. Um, but I always had this urge to be part of the outdoor industry in work, and through through an energy bar company that I um, in started working on that in 2012, uh, very slowly, small scale, and it never got big, but I got some experience and credibility, which allowed me to bring something to the table when I met the founders of RightOnTrek in 2019.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about your role at Right on Track and then also what exactly it is?
Yeah, let me start by giving you a little bit of background overview about our company. RightOnTrek was founded in 2018 by a group of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs who had become obsessed with backpacking adventures to help balance their often serious corporate lives. After completing their first trip on the John Muir Trail, they realized a shared dream, which was to open up similar adventures to millions more people who didn't necessarily have the knowledge, experience, or equipment that is needed for multi-day adventures, or especially multi-day backpacking. So, Right on Trek at its core is a platform that we've been building to help people find and access all types of epic outdoor adventures. Um, Eventually, it will span a wide range of human-powered activities. We're starting with backpacking as our beachhead market, but we hope soon to move into things like bikepacking, self-powered boating, ski touring, and maybe combinations of adventure activities where you go on a vacation and then choose daily activities for your adventure. So right now we've built a platform that has a combination of curated multi-day backpacking itineraries, um, custom uh, multi-day trip planner and editor with mapping, and we have a gear rental system or a service where we can rent gear to anyone. Um, Currently, that's based around the western entry to Glacier National Park, so we can service more than 200 visitors who visit Glacier every year. And we have our meals products. So I joined Right on Trek, like I said, in 2019, and it quickly became clear that my role could be to help um, make a reality our own in-house meals division. And that would the hopes would be that would address the need for better tasting, healthier, and less expensive meals for outdoor adventures. We knew from field experience that people were generally unhappy with the choices available out there, and we thought we could do better and also provide an overall richer experience with the food that we make people.
Yeah, so from my understanding of what you're saying is like you guys didn't necessarily start as a backpacking meal company or service that just kind of fit in with your mission to make the outdoors more accessible and approachable.
Yeah, we started with food integrated in the goals of the company because we knew that planning and procuring food for a group is a big barrier. It takes a lot of time. It can take trips to 6 different grocery stores to get just the right food packaged the right way you need for a lightweight backpacking trip. Um, so we knew we wanted to do the food component, uh, but what we didn't realize was that, and now we were realizing very quickly, was that our meals are a great way to draw people into our ecosystem, to introduce customers to Right on Trek. And then as we develop more of our services and web tools, we'll have these people that already know us well from Great Meals.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you said that it's primarily that at least the rental portion of the business is primarily based around Glacier National Park. So in the future, are you planning to expand rental services to other national park areas or kind of just staying concentrated to Montana?
Yeah, the vision is to scale laterally and have other rental hubs around the U.S. in places that, especially places that are away from the major cities and infrastructure that would already have gear rental, but close to amazing wilderness or outdoor recreation resources. So think, the small trail towns, um, the townless national park entries, places like that.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. So you talked a little bit about kind of the genesis of the backpacking meals and how it just originally fit into the mission and the goals of the company. And you touched a little bit on the reasons why you wanted to introduce a backpacking meal, but other than what you've already mentioned, compared to what already exists on the market, because I feel like there are a lot of options now. How is Right on Trek different than what is already available?
Yeah, there are so many options out there now, and um, it's an industry that's been evolving and expanding over the last 60 years, um, since some of the big players came into it. So the basis of our philosophy around creating and the work we've put into evolving and refining the product over the past few years is this. People are buying adventure-ready meals that are designed to soak in hot water inside a pouch. And they're doing that, buying that type really for convenience only when it comes to adventures. Um, and by doing this, in large part, they're sacrificing nutrition, taste, quality, uh, and additional cost, as well as the general experience of eating from a pouch, um, for this sole purpose of convenience. And so we asked, if the um, eat from a pouch model isn't really designed for outdoor adventures, is it something that we need to do with our product? And um, and if we want people to have meaningful connections with nature on their adventures, does this type of food help them to make great memories? And then we kind of just question that approach, that industry standard approach. And the reality is most products, the evolution of backpacking food came from the emergency preparedness market. That's what they're designed for, and we realized we didn't need to package that way. So by questioning these pillars of the status quo, we approached the market with a radically different solution. We also knew that our customer base would love to have environmentally friendly options for the packaged consumer goods they do use on adventures. Because let's face it, there is a lot of convenience. At some level, you want some convenience in the food you're bringing on your adventure, right? And maybe you don't have all afternoon to forage and hunt and gather all the food you need, or maybe not the strength to haul in fresh vegetables and fruits for 7 days. But we know our customer base is acutely aware that their choices around packaged consumer goods can and will impact the planet that in ways that destroys the very character of the same places that they're going out to visit, and the character that makes these wild places worthwhile to visit. So by stripping down the product requirements to the essentials, we can approach the packaging design with a sustainable outcome in mind, as well as one that would give people a better experience. So what we do and what we have done from year 2 of operation is use 100% bio-based packaging. And what we've tested a few different varieties and had a couple in rotation. And what we've arrived at is one that we source. We've tested extensively, and we're really happy with, because it's sturdy enough to hold up on rugged adventures. It's waterproof. The printing stays on even with a light amount of water. And best of all, it's bio-based, sourced from tree pulp. So another part of this, stepping away from the paradigm, questioning the status quo, is it allows us to design meals that are ready to cook instead of ready to soak in hot water. Some of the meals from competitors require up to 25 minutes to rehydrate, and even then, in my opinion, it's questionable if they're rehydrated to a point of being really palatable sometimes. And that's it. So that's tested for 5,000 feet, right? Every 5,000 feet higher you go, you have to double rehydration or cooking time. And our meals start with a 3 to 7 minute cooking time after water is boiled. So if you're faced with doubling 3 to 7 minutes versus doubling 25 minutes, if you're camping in Colorado, the options start to get pretty stark, the differences here. So it's ready faster. And we also believe that the experience of cooking food is important to an adventure as well. And in books like Sapiens recently, right, we learned that cooking food is an evolutionary advantage of humans uniquely. And by cooking food, we can use minimal energy for digestion and then save maximum energy for hiking and the fun that we're there for. It's also, we believe, a great opportunity to slow down and be present with the experience at hand. We're creating something um, on our adventure, and we're taking an active part in it. Another way that we've differentiated our product is we offer really honest portion sizes with carefully balanced nutrition. We're not putting filler ingredients in. For every dinner and breakfast meal that we make, we have targets for the amount of carbohydrates, protein, and fat, all the important micronutrients. And we offer sizes that range from 1 to 4 servings. So if you're a group, you can really save quite a bit of packaging by buying one of our larger portion packages and have a legitimate reason to share. And right.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on a lot of things in that answer. So I appreciate such a thorough response. So I think
Sure.
the best thing to do is kind of just like break it down. So we'll kind of take it a little bit bigger picture and then start to evaluate some of the smaller aspects that you mentioned, such as like the packaging and then the actual food that is contained in those meals. So as the your role with them is a sustainability engineer, from my understanding. And so I am curious to hear kind of how, when you were producing these meals and how you currently evaluate them, both for the upstream and the downstream ecosystems of the entire meal. And I would assume that that includes like the packaging and the production and just everything that goes into actually making this.
It's actually that to the beginning of that question. My role is actually chiefly product developer,
Oh, okay.
and then with RightOnTrek, I'm also the chief sustainability officer, and we can talk more about how sustainability permeates many facets of our company. But I guess I don't think the question is phrased appropriately for the thought that went into the meals. Uh, I don't think you get a very substantive answer.
Okay, how would you phrase the question? Because I think you understand kind of like
Um,
what I'm looking for here, but
so what you're looking for is commentary on both on the what thought went into the sustainability of the packaging and the ingredients.
mhm, and the
Okay.
production as well. So like
Okay.
the big picture impact of the meals and how you
So I guess I
evaluated
would,
that.
yeah, I would ask as someone as both a product developer and um, chief sustainability officer for the company, what consideration did you put um, towards sustainability in selecting the packaging, ingredients, and production design and production methods?
Absolutely. I love that question. Let's go with that.
Well, um, starting with the packaging, there are a lot of options out there. Like I said, we knew we wanted to give customers something that would leave less environmental impact, and um, there are a lot of options from that range from recyclable packaging to compostable, or there's omni-degradable packaging that's out there, and then there's bio-based. One of the principles I like to adhere to that I've learned along the way is as a company making these goods, what we can do is bear some responsibility for which materials we source. So we won't place the burden on the consumer. We're not going to source heavy plastic and aluminum and then place the burden on the consumer to find a way to recycle it. We're going to take this on and say, we'll pay a little more for this bio-based packaging, for example, if it means that we've already mitigated a lot of that impact on the upstream side before because the customer even gets the product. And then, when we talk about what materials specifically they're made of, bio-based and compostable, they're pretty similar. We evaluated some of the compostable options and we found that either they're not sturdy enough or they're too expensive, like way 3 or 4 times expensive as our solution. Or they're made from um, materials and uh, plants that originate with GMO crops or originate with food crops that are part of the human food system, like corn and sugarcane, and thereby by trying to solve one problem of waste, we might be creating another problem for food scarcity in populations around the world. So by choosing this packaging source from tree pulp, we're we're doing the right thing upstream. It's essentially a renewable resource, this tree pulp that we're using. I wish it was some kind of post-consumer waste, but right now it's virgin tree pulp. Uh, and we're avoiding the human food chain in our materials. Um, and then it just so happens with regard to packaging that this packaging can also be used as a fire starter where it's safe. We definitely are big proponents of adhering to fire safety and local fire regulations, especially in seasonal situations. But it can be a fire starter, and if you have one of these tinder burning stoves, Solo or Bush Buddy, or there are a few others out there, you can use the packaging to cook the meal itself, and it provides about 50% of the fuel we need to cook the meal. That's pretty neat.
I do have a
In
question
terms of the
about the
ingredients,
packaging.
oh, yeah,
Before
sorry.
you move on to the ingredients, I had a question about the packaging because I think like the way that you're explaining it being made from the wood pulp, and I've seen like the actual packaging, but for people that haven't seen the packaging, I think it kind of sounds like it would just be paper. And so how is it different from paper in that it is actually preserving the food inside the package and keeping it from spoiling?
Yeah, perfect question. So the outside is a craft paper layer, so it has a really nice natural look and feel. Um, our digital print turned out great on those. The inner layer is a it's a bio-based linear low density polyethylene. So it's a bio resin that looks and feels and acts just like plastic, except it's made from tree pulp that's been processed into this resin, and that creates a both an oxygen transmission and water vapor barrier that's sufficient to give us easily 18-month shelf life. And we're doing some ongoing laboratory studies right now to see if we can increase that to 24 or 30 months.
Awesome. And I think the other concern that people may have would be that it maybe isn't as moisture resistant as other options. So kind of how did you combat that aspect?
Well, we've done the field testing. We've done 15-second immersion tests, with a whole pouch in a bucket of water, and we've never had water leak into the pouch. The outer layer will get wet, and it might start to wear off. But when you when you choose the environmentally sustainable option, there are some trade-offs to make. Uh, so it might turn out, if it gets wet, it might turn out looking a little wrinkled, or some of the outer layer might start to peel off. But the core function that's needed of keeping your food dry and in one piece will be there.
Perfect. And I mean, most people you can carry your food in a stuff sack or something that is water resistant fully. So you can just avoid exposure to moisture to begin with anyway. So that's always good to consider when you are packing for the weather and the climate that you're hiking in. And when I don't know how much exactly you know about like the specific production of the wood pulp, but I have heard before that with some wood pulp products that there are a lot of chemicals that go into like actually producing it and compressing it into the pulp substance. And then that kind of just like contaminates the water after the production process. So I would just be kind of curious to hear um, if that is avoided or if there are chemicals that are being, like, leached into water systems and stuff like that from where your bags are specifically being produced. That was a lot of words, but
Yeah, that's a valid concern, and I can't speak to the specific impacts of the way that our material is created, but there are similar trade-offs with plastic. Um,
Mhm.
Plastic processing would does similar things. There are lots of chemicals involved. Um, Aluminum, a lot of our competitors use a plastic pouch lined with aluminum to further enhance the heat retention for the soaking process. Aluminum has a huge environmental impact in both the mining and processing. Very big energy user. And so there are trade-offs for any, there are really trade-offs for any type of material you choose.
Yeah,
But
you were
I am,
just kind of looking for
um,
the least impactful, which is what you narrowed it down to.
yes,
Awesome. Um, Great. So thank you for answering those questions. So you were kind of moving on to how you source the foods and produce that because your foods are dehydrated, correct? Not freeze dried.
we source a selection of the very best air-dried and freeze-dried ingredients, and this allows us to have a wider set of ingredients than if we were a vertically integrated freeze drying operation ourselves. Um, and it allows us also to give the customer a little richer cooking experience here, since we don't ask them to just soak it in the bag. We can cook it, and so we can use a wider variety of ingredients here. Some ingredients are best preserved in a freeze dry method. Um, Others, it doesn't matter much, and they reconstitute just as well from an air dry state. The um, the sustainability oriented thought that we put into recipes and ingredients, I would say, is the emphasis on offering meals with low impact diet types. So our lineup will always offer a good selection of vegan and vegetarian options that, if you look at um, impact of food choices, there have been a lot of publications on this recently in the past few years. But when we talk about overall impact of your choices on the adventure, probably the type of food you choose to eat has a way bigger impact than the packaging it comes in. So we're always going to keep vegan and vegetarian plant-based options in our lineup.
Do
And then
you
with
Oh,
ingredients, we source wherever it's um, possible. We source organic ingredients. We certainly um, choose all natural ingredients wherever possible as well.
do you offer any animal-based meals? That was a weird way to phrase that, but non-plant-based
Yeah,
meals.
yeah, we have meals containing meats and dairy products. It's we can't change the way people eat, but we can
Mhm.
offer alternatives. And if a lot of people have tried one of our products called General Soy's Mountain Rice, which is it's a it's like a General So's rice except with soy instead of chicken. And a lot of people have tried it and said, "Wow, I can't believe this doesn't have chicken in it. It tastes just like chicken." So
That's
it's
awesome.
if we can do little things like that and show people that, hey, here's a really great recipe and it's all plant based, um, then I feel like we're making a difference.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to sourcing the animal products then or, like, choosing and crafting the meals, do you kind of, go about that in a different way to ensure that they're coming from regenerative sources and not necessarily from CAFOs or anything like that? Or yeah, you know what a CAFO is, so I'm not gonna.
Um, Unfortunately, we don't have options.
Oh, okay. Um, that's fine. I was just curious. So other than those specific meal options and kind of like focusing on the plant-based and the packaging and just like general intentional choices for the consumer, what other things is Right on Trek doing to integrate sustainable practices into their business?
Sure. Yeah, I think at its very core, the mission of our business is about getting more people in touch with nature, um, helping people build that personal connection with the natural environment. Uh, there, there are a lot of groups out there who, you know, may care a lot about environmental issues in terms of cultural values, but maybe haven't formed a deep enough connection or haven't had the opportunities to do that. Uh, that would connection with nature that would really spur them to that next level of becoming environmental conservation advocates themselves. So, just from a very basis of what our mission is, we believe that getting more people out on backcountry adventures will help to build the next generation of environmental and conservation advocates. But then, things we do directly with our services, I mentioned our trip planning, adventure planning platform. Um, we integrate leave no trace practice guidance into that. We've been working. We upgraded our partnership this year with the Leave No Trace organization to a corporate sponsor, which means we have worked with them to develop educational material, and we're in the process of tailoring that material to each eco zone where we have our trail coverage. So you'll get leave no trace practices that are specifically tailored for the desert if you're doing a trip in the desert, or in the High Sierra if you happen to be planning a trip in the High Sierra Mountains. That's one thing we do. I think the gear rental aspect of what we do at its very basis is also a big effort at helping travelers make more sustainable, giving travelers more sustainable options, be able to travel light and rent gear when you arrive, um, and also being able to rent instead of purchasing something that has a lot of embodied energy and material that will otherwise sit on your shelf in the basement for 99% of the year. Um, in 2022, we offset all of our direct-to-consumer shipping and materials greenhouse gas impact with carbon credits that were sourced in support of a project to help ranchers in Montana develop more sustainable grazing practices that will lead to both uh, better treatment of animals as well as more carbon that's captured in the soil by the grass. Those are some highlights of other things we do.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of different things that you're working on. And I do really like that integration of the education aspect because I think a lot of times it is really important for the companies or outfitters or anyone like that when you are like presenting any consumer facing product to like offer that level of education to be like, this is different here. So you should know this about that. Especially when you're tailoring it to like beginners or new people and you want it to be approachable and for them to understand it like right when they enter it and not building bad habits. So I do really like that aspect
Mhm.
of
And
um
it's a big part of our trip planning and um, inviting people to plan adventures is about helping people um, be good stewards of the places where they're having these adventures. We want all of our customers to leave the places better than they found them, and our mission is also to educate people when they get out.
perfect. And it seems like you're doing that on all fronts. Cool. So, how can listeners learn more about Right on Trek, all of your services, but also purchase some of your meals if they're interested in trying them?
Would encourage anyone to look at our website. We've got um, a website full of things to explore. It's rightontrek.com. Um, Definitely encourage people to check out our trip planning resources and make an account so that you can save information and share with friends.
I'll be sure to share the links to your guys' website and then maybe a few of the different meal options, as well as any social presence that you guys might have in the show notes, so people can check that out later after they're done listening and not while they're driving. And with that, just thanks so much, Eric, for being here and just sharing some of that information about how you kind of planned and evaluated these aspects of sustainability in producing a backpacking meal.
Yeah, it was nice to chat with you, Megan. And thanks for the great work you're doing with this podcast.
Thanks for listening. And if you like what you hear, let me know. Leave a review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Instagram at outdoor.minimalist.book, on YouTube, or subscribe to our weekly newsletter at theoutdoorminimalist.com. For even more updates, other educational resources, and to help build an outdoor community with the shared goal to create a better outdoor space as we recreate.